All right, everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the Gen 6 Camaro. A personal favorite of mine. I absolutely love that car, and it's sad. I'm sad to see it go. So in some ways, this is going to be a somber video, but in some ways, maybe not. So I never heard official word from GM that they were going to, in fact, not make the Camaro ever again. So I don't know. Maybe it's going to come back as an electric car. GM's invested a huge amount of money on their future small block V8s. So I don't think muscle cars and the combustion engine are really going anywhere soon. I think they're just going to get better and better like they've been. Lighter, more powerful, more fuel efficient. Yeah, I think it could come back in a couple years, or it might be close to a decade. It's hard to say. Okay, but I want to talk about the legacy of the Gen 6 Camaro, mostly because, I was watching TFL, and they were talking about the end of the Camaro, and I don't know, listening to the father and son duo, they're pretty funny guys to listen to, but sometimes I wonder about how much they know, because the son sort of started talking about how, I think the Camaro was in this situation where it wasn't making enough horsepower, and it couldn't compete in sales, so it was done. And I just don't think that's a really accurate portrayal of what happened. Because you have to understand, when somebody buys a Challenger or a Charger, you're not buying a car you're going to bring to a track and you're going to do road courses or autocrosses. I mean, you can do it. Too heavy. It doesn't brake. It doesn't handle anything like a Camaro does. The Alpha platform on the Camaro is awesome on that Gen 6. It is just outstanding. No other way to say it than that. Yes, it doesn't make as much horsepower as the Dodges, but the Dodges have different view of what they're trying to do with their cars. They're trying to sell it to a different crowd that just wants to accelerate, go fast in a straight line, who's very comfortable. There's a lot of middle-aged, older white males that are probably a little bit overweight. It's not comfortable getting in and out of Camaros, especially Corvettes. So the Dodge provides like a different alternative, a more comfortable, easier vehicle to get in and out of. That's how I look at it. It's more of a middle-aged man's car, in my opinion. Okay, the Mustang and the Camaro, awesome cars. They're cars you can bring to the track, and they're also cars you can bring to the drag strip. I think they're just more well-rounded than the Dodges, and they're a lot lighter. Okay, I wanted to address this because I don't think the Camaro was canceled, or I should say retired temporarily, because it didn't have enough horsepower. I just disagree with that. If you look at the entry-level Mustang, or even just the Coyote Mustang, and compare it to the SS Camaro, they're very close with each other in performance. In fact, most of the videos I've seen over the years where you have professionals driving the cars around tracks like VIR, Virginia International Speedway, Laguna, places like that, Thunderhill, the Camaro SS 1LE consistently outperformed the Mustang with the Track Pack Edition, okay? And it really wasn't until Mustang came out with the GT500 that was the game changer. But again, it's a lot more expensive car. There was a lot more invested in it, and GM quit investing in the Camaro about 4 years ago. That's the reality. So if you're going to compare ZL1 1LE, which I think is an incredible car, to the GT500, not really a fair comparison, because there's a lot more R&D in the GT500. It's newer technology. But given that, they're not that far away from each other in terms of performance on a track, where the big difference is the horsepower and some of the things Ford has done to really develop that chassis. But, they're still developing it, whereas GM's been done developing the Camaro for quite a while now. So I've always been really impressed with the Gen 6 Camaro. I even love the Gen 5 Camaro, and I don't mean to make this video somber in any way, but it's going to be a little bit like that because the last time they canceled the Camaro, it was back in 2002, and it never came back until 2010. But I will say this as a degree of optimism. Man, was it awesome when it came back. The Gen 5, when I first saw that car, I loved it. I loved the way it looked. I just thought it was awesome because it was just a new age. It looked It looked new, but it also had that classic 67 Camaro look to it. I thought they just did an outstanding job. And it seemed like after that, Dodge and Ford tried to go retro new. And I really liked the way the Gen 6 looked. The Gen 5 Camaro looked when it came out. The only problem, it was on the Delta platform. The Delta platform. It was heavy, dated platform like the Dodges are on. And I just felt like it was too heavy of a car, but I did enjoy driving it. I love the Gen 5 Camaro SS's, and I even love the 6-cylinder one. I drove both of those, and to be honest with you, I was really impressed with the 6-cylinder one. That surprised me. I thought that car would be kind of a dog because it's heavy and didn't have as much power, but it was awesome. It felt pretty nimble for such a large car. Okay, Gen 6 rolls around. That's a chassis that's shared with Cadillac with the ATS, CTS, and we all know how badass those cars are, especially the CTS and ATS-Vs, and now you got the black wings of the CT4 and CT5. Now, I think what ended the Camaro's production wasn't a lack of horsepower. They made plenty of horsepower. They're a lot lighter cars. They weren't designed just to be drag cars, but you could do that. They were that fast. And especially when you port the heads and put a cam in it, and oh my God, they make huge power. If you have any doubts about that, just check out LMR, Late Model Racecraft. They, out of Houston, they do some incredible builds on those cars. So I don't think that whole platform was ended and retired simply because it didn't make enough horsepower. I think that's ridiculous. Okay, why did it end? Let's be real. The world's been insane the last 3 years. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. I think the chip shortage, the microchips that were needed for the computers on these cars were limited. They were all limited for all the car companies. And GM had to make a decision. Which cars or vehicles were they going to support? Because they had to focus on the ones that were going to be here in the future that were guaranteed money makers. The Corvette, of course, and also the Cadillacs. And I don't think GM was willing to reduce the capacity of the of the Corvette or the Cadillacs simply because they wanted to keep the Camaros running. I think there was a lot of issues there with R&D and development a couple years ago, and also availability, of course. But and I know that they shut down the Cadillac. Well, basically, the Cadillac and Camaro were made in the same place, or have been made and continue to be made in the same place. But GM definitely has made a commitment to Cadillac and has not made that commitment to Camaro, obviously. I mean, now you have the CT4, CT5, right? And the Camaro isn't going into a 7th generation anytime soon. So that's my evidence for GM's lack of commitment for the Gen 6 right now. Obviously, because this last model year is going to be the last one. And, this is going to be the last model year for them. So you have to put in all of your orders this summer, June 2023, so you can get one. And I think the ZL1s are going to be really tough to get. They're supposed to have a limited edition one. That should be really tough to get. Either way, it's sad. It's depressing. But I think it was an outstanding car. And like I said, when you look at the Camaro ZL1, the ZL1 1LE, it was an amazing track car. Still is, I should say. And the Camaro SS 1LE, that's basically the SS Camaro with a lot of the components specially designed for track use. It had different wheels and tires on it. It had more radiators, more cooling on it, transmission coolers, oil coolers, things like that. Amazing car. It was just ridiculously fast. In fact, from what I saw, it had faster track times than the Gen 5 Z28 had, and that had an LS7 in it. While it was a heavier car, it also had carbon brakes and ceramic rotors with an LS7. So that Gen 6 was an absolute success. Why didn't it sell more? I think it had to do with, probably a lot of reasons, but I think not the least of which was the chip shortage. That definitely hurt them because GM just has not refreshed the Gen 6 much at all, while Ford is coming out with different variants, and of course Dodge just continues to get the most they can out of this dated platform. And much respect to Dodge. They know who their market is, they know what the purpose is of their cars, and they keep building them like that. Eventually Dodge is going to go to electric. I imagine Ford and GM are going to have electric variants in the not so distant future for the Camaro and the Mustang. And that could be another reason why GM is, ending the Gen 6. But they didn't say specifically that there wouldn't be a Gen 7. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not an insider at GM. I don't even know anybody that's an insider at GM. I only know what I see on other people's YouTube channels. Lethal Garage has a lot of really good videos on Camaros, and he seems to know, he knows some people at GM that must be close to Oppenheimer, the guy that's head of their research and development of the Gen 6 Camaro team, because he seems to get information very quickly. So whatever I'm getting is just what's out there and what he's produced. And I just think it's sad that the car is going away. And I've always wanted a Gen 6 Camaro. I really was considering buying one as a daily driver. But then, of course, when the pandemic hit and the prices went through the roof and availability was low, I didn't want anything to do with buying a car. And what you're seeing right now is pretty amazing, because these car companies, and I shouldn't just blame the car companies, I should really blame the dealers. They absolutely took advantage of consumers, of hardworking people. They jacked the prices up through the roof. They were price gouging. And they took advantage of customers. They took advantage of the fact that there weren't that many supplies out there. The consumer didn't have a lot of choices, and they bent everyone over. That's in fact what they did. And interestingly enough, the chickens have come home to roost, because now they're caught up with the chip shortage. And it looks like there's ample supplies of cars and trucks nowadays, but people aren't buying. Well, for two reasons. Number one, the prices are too high. Number two, the Fed keeps raising the interest rates through the roof, and of course a lot of people can't qualify for loans. That's killing it too. So, and the other thing is GM, not just GM, all the automotive car companies have said this. They've all clearly said that they're perfectly content. They said this a year ago. Several car companies did. Their CEOs, they're perfectly content focusing on the premium line of vehicles, and they'd rather sell less vehicles for a higher price, which goes against the whole purpose of why you have cars available to the public. I mean, Henry Ford would turn in his grave over this, right? His whole thing was providing a car that every American can afford and own, and providing a lot of jobs. Well, they haven't been doing that lately, the car companies, and now they're in a situation where they can't sell what they have in their lots because, of course, interest rates are too high. People can't qualify for loans, and also they've been overpriced for too long, and people are on to the fact that these big corporations are price gouging everyone. So that's the situation you're in. I won't say Camaros are in that same exact situation, because I think they sold 25,000 in 2022. Yeah, I believe it was 25,000, which was a lot less than the Mustang and a lot less than even the Dodges. But what I'll say there is a lot of people tried to get Camaros and couldn't get Gen 6 Camaros because there just wasn't enough supplies. I mean, that went on for like a year and a half, and there were several times they literally shut down production. So that's never good when they have to do that at the factory. It was obvious chip shortages that affected Cadillac, but I think obviously GM's retooled by now. And but the supplies are still pretty low of Camaros, and that's another reason why the sales have been low. I mean, GM just they just decided they're done with the Gen 6. So I don't know when it's going to come back. I hope it does come back. I don't really want to get into electric versus ICE in this video. I just hope if it does come back as an electric car, I just hope it's got the Camaro performance. It's something that we've come to love. And looks, of course, that's important as well. I just hope it's not a four-door sedan and just like a totally different kind of car. Like the Blazer's a different kind of vehicle. It's just an SUV basically on not a truck platform, that's for sure. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about the Camaro and give you all some just give you all my thoughts on it. I'm going to miss that car, and it's going to be even harder to get now because it's going to be a limited supplies type vehicle. So I don't know how long it's going to be before the Gen 7 comes out, if and when it comes out. I just hope it's not 8 or 10 years like the last time. But I don't know. I think we should be optimistic. Performance of these vehicles and research and development keeps getting better and better. Who knows? Maybe it's gonna exceed expectations by leaps and bounds. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm gonna be an optimist. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts on the Camaro and whether or not it's going to come out with the Gen 7 GM, please leave a comment. All right. Please like and subscribe. I'll get back to you later. Have a good day.